I mean, there is a huge amount on the agenda for this meeting. There may be one big issue, but actually there's so much detail there.
Yeah, there really is. And as you say, Boris Johnson wants to focus on those big global geopolitical issues, primarily, it must be said, based, of course, around the war in Ukraine, which is having all sorts of consequences for the defence here in Europe, for the future of NATO, but also for food supplies, for example, in sub-Saharan Africa, beyond Rwanda. He wants to focus on those issues, and that is what he's talking to G7 leaders about, as you say, later on today in Germany at that NATO summit in Madrid, is what he's been talking to Commonwealth leaders here in Rwanda for the last couple of days. But frankly, lots of the political agenda domestically back home, and he cannot get away from this, is square about his leadership. It is about the loss of those 2 by-elections, the resignation of Oliver Dowden, and we've heard from some Conservative MPs in the last couple of days suggesting they want to see the rules of the Conservative Party changed so that he could face another leadership challenge in the future. Now, having won that vote a couple of weeks ago, in theory he is safe for another year, but they are electing a new executive of the Conservative Party, the 1922 committee, and there are suggestions that they may well get rid of that year cap. And it comes as a bit of controversy overnight here as well from Rwanda. Boris Johnson was speaking to me and other journalists yesterday, in which he seemed to suggest he wants to carry on well into the 2030s, into a third term. He told us that at the moment I'm actively thinking about the third term and what could happen then, but I'll review that when I get into it. He certainly suggested that he thought the levelling up agenda would take 2 full terms. This was following a question which he was asked whether he would do 2 full terms. Many, as I say, Conservatives pretty uneasy about that this morning, suggesting he may be a bit tone deaf, given the fact his leadership seems under threat at the moment. To suggest he's going to carry on for more than a decade, they would say seems laughable. Now, Downing Street insist the Prime Minister was saying this somewhat in jest, but frankly it adds again, I think, to this sense that irrespective of what Boris Johnson wants to talk about, and these are really big important issues and he is doing it on the world stage, let's be frank about this, his party back home is thinking very much about his future, and that is unlikely to change in the week ahead. And as you say, he's not due back in London until much later on this week.